Hey guys, this is Red and Blue, your channel on YouTube for all things PSG in English. Please subscribe. Today, let's talk about the game yesterday, PSG versus Angers, a clear victory, 1-0. Smallest of margin, but clear domination throughout the game for PSG. But you know, sometimes the most important of the game isn't there, and this was one of those times. Yeah, let me stop that. Yeah, big moment at the end of the game between the fans, the PSG fans, and Donnarumma, who got a goodbye, even if we don't really know what's going to happen to him just yet. Very likely Man City, like I said yesterday, but yeah, like a big moment, a big goodbye for a big player. So yeah, for once, well done on doing that right. On the game, let's go back to this. Like I said, like Paris really like completely dominated the game. I think we end up with more than 80% possession of the ball, 20 shots to probably like 3 or 4, I would say at most for Angers. The problem is that like we're still nowhere close to peak fitness, and it showed. It was a better game than the one against Nantes, though. But yeah, like little details in terms of how we position ourselves tactically, in terms of how the players move, in terms of the little decisions that they take, and more than anything, in terms of the speed of execution, which is for me the big takeaway of it, means that, you know, we're held to a 1-0 win. It's a win, it's a clean sheet, it's job done as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, we would have liked to see more goals, and we had a few opportunities. But yeah, the team is just at this moment of the season not necessarily able to do the little things right to be able to do more than that. And for me, that's the big takeaway. Like I said, like better games than not. And I think like I'll start with that. I think in terms of the starting 11, it was very clear that we had our usual starters back on the pitch, with the exception of Gvara, who missed out at the last minute because of a muscular thing apparently he's got. But even then, like Barcola took the pitch on his place. So yeah, very, very strong starting 11, and it showed. Straight away, we saw a lot more combinations. We saw a lot more technical abilities. And yeah, I thought for me it was interesting because I think like tactically there were quite a few things which happened during this game, which really gave me pause. The first one is that in terms of how we positioned, when we had the ball, I think a lot of times we ended up playing a sort of 3-2-3, 2-3-2-3. Sorry, I'm like running it in my head at the same time. 2-3-2-3 with or two central defenders at the back, Pacho and Marquinhos. Then our three midfielders, Ruiz, Vitinha, and João Neves. Our two fullbacks, Nuno Mendes and Hakimi. And then up front, our three attackers. And what was really interesting is that if you look at the players like from left to right in offense, on one side, on the right side, you had Hakimi, who was always the player like further out towards the touchline, and then the midfielder like coming in and the attacker coming in the half space. On the other side, it was different. It was initially Barcola, but very quickly Doue was really like stuck to the touchline, and then like Nuno Mendes and Ruiz switching places and taking that half space on the left. And that was an area where there was a lot of trouble. Ultimately, our goal came from there. I would have loved to see more in that space in terms of what we did. I think the players could have hit it a little bit more, a little bit harder. But yeah, it was interesting because if you remember the preview that I did, I had talked about the left side of Angers' defense, and so the right side of our offense. And they actually surprised us because they didn't play the players that we were expecting. We were expecting Anin, who's 35 years old. And in the end, they play Ecomier, who had a fantastic game, the player who was playing left back for them. And so, yeah, so very quickly, it became clear that this area, which I thought was going to be an area of opportunity, turned out to be an area of trouble not trouble, but like not we weren't as domineering there as we went on the other side. And so there were a lot of permutation, I think, throughout the first half to find the right balance and the right way of organizing our offensive players. And so, like I said, we started with Barcola on the left, Dembele in the middle, and Doue on the right. Very quickly, like Doue went to the left and kind of like switch with Barcola. And then a little bit further, in the second half, Barcola and Dembele switched, and so Barcola ends up in the middle, Dembele on the right, a little bit like further behind as well. So quite a lot of moves there, which I thought were interesting. Also interesting, and I kind of touched on that briefly, but yeah, Nuno Mendes and Ruiz trading places and covering for each other was really like a well-oiled machine. And I thought it was really interesting the way they took this half space, because you would expect Nuno to be playing a little bit like Hakimi on the other side, so really sticking closer to the touchline and offering the space closer to the middle for Doue to come into, which would feel like pretty natural. Ultimately, that's not the way it ended, and I thought that was really significant. And I think, the way Ruiz covered for Nuno Mendes when Nuno Mendes goes up front was interesting. I think like there's still little areas of improvements. So I think like Nuno Mendes could have done more projection and gone even further, because it felt like when he was going up front, Ruiz drops back to cover for him. But Nuno Mendes, he would stop at the entrance of the penalty area of Angers. When the roles are reversed and Ruiz is up front and Nuno Mendes in defense, Ruiz would project all the way to inside the area and even call for the ball at the back of the defense of Angers, which creates a lot of trouble for them. And I would have loved, Nuno Mendes did it a couple of times in the second half, and that was always very dangerous. So that I would have loved for him to do it earlier in the game. And I think ultimately, from this combination of those two players and them, covering for each other, one forward, one backward, actually came the goal, because it was one of the first time where all of a sudden both players are up front at the same time. And so all of a sudden, we actually, even against a team who had parked the bus and so who had a lot of people in defense and in midfield in that area, all of a sudden, in this very specific left half space of their penalty area, we had more players than they did, because we had Doue, who was shifting a little bit inside, Ruiz and Nuno Mendes, who were both in this area at the same time. And I think Nuno Mendes a little bit further forward, but Ruiz really not far back. And then I think it's Barcola who was drifting in from the number 9 position slightly to the left. And so all of a sudden we have 4 players there. They only have 2 or 3 depending on how you look at their defenders positioning. And so the goal action starts with Dembele on the right, who's actually on his own, and he's taking the ball and he's dribbling and he's kind of shifting progressively towards the middle. And then he passes the ball to the other side. And I think that's the point where the Angers defense realizes and goes oh damn, wait, there's a lot of them there. We didn't see that because we were tracking Dembele and focused on the big guy who's dribbling everyone on the other side. But yeah, so they try to run back and cover. They don't really quite get there. There's a little bit of a shuffle there. We kind of lose the ball, but then trying to clear the Angers defender, give it back to Ruiz, and Ruiz straight away takes the shot, scores the goal. So it almost doesn't happen in the end, because we've got so many people in this area. I think we create our own luck in a way, because yeah, it's true, the Angers player like misses his clearance and gives it back to Ruiz, who gets a shot because of that. But at the same time, like if Ruiz was covering for Nuno Mendes, like he's done for the whole rest of the game, and he was like 20 meters back on the same line as Pacho and Marquinhos, there's no goal. So yeah, like, you know, we took a risk there. The players like push forward probably a bit more than what they were meant to do, and he actually creates the goal. And I think stuff like this is going to be very interesting to see over a few games, because we're going to face teams playing like Angers all season. I expect, like, you know, team very low in defense and playing a little bit of a bus. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if those kind of tweaks or risk taking actually applies game to game, or if this was a one-off. Okay. Beyond that, in terms of individual players and how they did, I think in general our defense are very little to do. Chevalier, like basically nothing. Central defenders, Pacho very solid. Didn't have much to do, but he did well. Marquinhos actually played a really good game. I thought his passing was very good. Also, he moves the ball forward and comes forward to participate on set pieces. So he actually, like, I think he contributed a little bit more than Pacho. Hakimi on the right, I thought he was interesting. He played very, very far up the pitch. Like I said, like very close to the touchline. There was a point where I was like, you know, I kind of wish we would get more out of him in terms of coming towards the middle of the pitch and, you know, creating situations like he's done at the end of last season, where he goes from the right towards the middle at the back of defense, ends up in a sort of number 9 area. And literally, like, this is very, very hard to defend for the opposing team. Because yeah, he's just not supposed to be there in the first place. And in this game, he was on the right, but he didn't really cut so much infield. And I kind of wish he had, because we needed a little bit more density and a little bit more option in this area. So I think there would have been opportunities for him. That said, he was on the right. He did what he had to do, like pretty decently. Not the best game of the year for him, but, you know, not a bad one either. On the other side, Nuno Mendes, honestly, like, I thought was very interesting. Like I said, he projected a lot, which I really like. I feel like he could have gone a little bit further, but already was interesting. I think his second half was really excellent, when he went even that little bit further, took some shots, really like did some rush in the area. That was great to see. And I think, like, I really liked as well the way he was taking the corner kicks. We obviously, like, we didn't score any of them or anything, but I thought they were always shot into dangerous areas, and there were, I think, 2 or 3 of them which led to, like, really, like, shuffles in the area of Angers, and then them having to clear the ball, like, you know, without really, like, being able to move it out cleanly. So, you know, if we can, if like our players who can head the ball can find those right areas and, you know, put themselves there to get the crosses, I think, like, you know, it could be trouble. So that's something that we need to work on a bit more. In midfield, bit of a blend game from most of them. I thought Vitinha was okay, but not transcending. Very hard for him to find really good line of passes with when he's got, like, essentially 9 players in front of him, 9 opposing players in front of him. So it's a tough one. I think he did okay, like a bit like Hakimi. I think he did okay, but not anywhere close to his best. I really wonder how he's doing physically, because he played all 3 games so far and really, like, played 90 minutes. So I do wonder where he's at physically. João Neves was back. I think he did okay as well. I'm amazed, like, he's covering so much ground. It's just, like, it's such a good addition to have on the team. He gets the fall in the first half that gets us a penalty by projecting in the area. He's always the first one trying to counter press when we lose the ball. And yeah, he's moving around and, like, you know, trying to drift into spaces, trying to create those spaces. So it's always moving. He's always moving. So it's really interesting. It wasn't like the sharpest he's ever been in terms of finding those spaces, but again, like it's his first match back, so I'll cut him some slack on this. And then the third one, Ruiz, obviously gets the winning goal. Like I said, combining really well with Nuno Mendes in a way which I thought was interesting. He gets a couple more opportunities as well towards the end of the game, including like a header that goes on the post. A header on a cross from Hakimi that like really goes close, and then he hits the post on another one. So yeah, he's like, very precious in midfield, in compensating, in creating passes, in being always clean with the ball. But then yeah, like projecting forward, he really creating danger. So that was excellent from him. And yeah, very much in keeping with what we've seen from him in the second part of last season. And then up front, bit of a mixed bag as well. I'll start first with Doue, who I thought was excellent. And honestly, like, I thought, like, I'll qualify that. I thought he was excellent in the first half. It's a little bit different there straight away. In the first half, I thought, like, as soon as he got placed back on the left, created a lot of danger, literally, like, with 2, 3, 4 defenders coming at him. He gets away with it, manages to find lines of passing, dribbles through, taking a couple of dangerous shots as well. He's like a constant danger in the opposing defense. And the fact that he was taking runs, really starting from the touchline, meant that he had time to accelerate and really like provoke and either find a pass or dribble. Sometimes he does a little bit too much. Sometimes he takes too many touches. Sometimes I wish it'd be a little bit easier, but yeah, like overall, like you look at the defenders on the other side, like, man, like if they see this guy coming at him, they must be sweating. Like he's a really, really hard one to take. And we've got Dembele on our team, so it shouldn't be that one. But yeah, it's hard to mark. So yeah, I thought that was really good. He clearly like lost a little bit on the second half. I think like physically probably is not at his peak yet. And I think in general, like the rhythm in the second half was really going up and downs. There's like, a few like 5-10 minutes periods where it's really interesting. But most of the second half, honestly, is like at a very, very low pace, especially after the goal. So yeah, like, it is what it is. He gets replaced at the 60th minute as well, so he gets off pretty early in the game. Next one, Dembele. I'm a bit frustrated, honestly, because he does a lot of things right, but he does things wrong, which are very, very visible, and where he can do better. So first, like, let's talk about the penalty. He misses it. It happens. He takes a shot. He really aims for the the top left corner of the goal. It goes over. Yeah, tough luck. I mean, it happens. He's a good penalty taker, so like it is the way it is. Like it's a fail, but it's okay. The problem is that after this, he tries to compensate and he tries to do so much. And, sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. And most of the time he tries to do too much as a result. And this way, like, it just doesn't work. So he takes a run at the defense, dribbles past 3 defenders, but then there's a fourth and he loses the ball. Or he tries to take weird shots. He tries to take like lines of passings which are unclear. So yeah, like don't like simplify. It's okay. You missed a penalty. It happens. Just go to something else. At the same time, he's creating so much danger, and he's like so strong technically when he's got the ball. And so that's what I said about the goal. He's like on his own, on the right side, moving past defenders and moving towards the center. And all of the Angers defense is like looking towards him and like, kind of shifting focus to how they're going to stop him. And it creates space on the other side. And he's such a good player that he can do that. He can take half of a defense on his own just to open up space on the other side. So that's pretty amazing to me. Another thing I didn't like though is that in the second half he played on the right, like I said, like they shifted between Barcola and Dembele, but he played like kind of like further down the pitch. So you had Hakimi up front and he was almost like behind Hakimi, which I thought was a very weird position for him to take. He was almost in line with Vitinha and João Neves and so on, which we've seen him do in other games. Like we know he can drop further down almost to Vitinha level when Vitinha is well taken, so he can help organize the game. But in this game, Vitinha wasn't pressed. So there wasn't really a need for him to come that far down to organize the game. And so especially like he's very far on the right as well. So he's not even like in the middle of the game. And so he's finding a lot of space, obviously, because he's very far from anything. But at the same time, he doesn't really create anything. And it's not like, he's our best player, admittedly. So like, why is he like in a position where, there's no danger there. There's no danger to be had there. So yeah, that one I thought was strange. I don't know if it was a Luis Enrique thing. I don't know if it was him kind of misinterpreting like where he needs to drop back, if he needs to drop back. But yeah, I hope we don't really see this one again in the same way, because that didn't really work for us. And then in terms of the last attacker, Barcola, I didn't like his game. I'll be very very blunt. I think he did some good things very, very early on the left, but then as soon as he got on the right, and even more when he was in the middle, we kind of lost track of him. He ends up being pretty static, actually, by comparison, which is not necessarily a bad thing because we were missing density in the area. So Barcola was actually the guy who was providing it most of the time. But yeah, he's not getting himself into shooting position. He's not really putting himself in places where he can have clear lines of passes for his midfielders or his other attackers. He's still, when he gets the ball, he's still trying to dribble past a few players and just like do everything on his own. So yeah, I didn't think there was a lot to really take from his game. Yeah, disappointing, honestly. I don't know how the game would have been with if Vara had been there, because I think Vara would have played if he had been fit. But yeah, like Barcola, it's sad as well because I liked last year, like the few times where he played on the right, I always thought were interesting. And yeah, in this case, like just wasn't. It's just like, yeah. So he was like one of the first player replaced. He was replaced with Ramos, who I thought had a very interesting few minutes by comparison. I really like, because like I said, like we were missing density in the box. So Ramos, like straight away, he solves that problem. Not on his own, but like, he's one guy, he's in the middle, and he's gonna stay there and really like give some work to the central defenders. And I was looking at him, and he's got such an intelligent way of positioning himself, which is like, so they've got three central defenders essentially, and he's in the middle. And instead of staying close to one, he's always like putting himself in between two. And he's always putting space between himself and the defenders that's towards the goal. So if he's on the right, he's going to be close to the third central defender on the right, so that the space between the middle one and the right one is open, and he can take the shot towards goal in this space. And it's just like, it's easy. It's not rocket science or anything, but just the way he does it very constantly, very consistently, it opens positions for him. It opens lines of passing. And so, in comparison with Barcola, who's drifting around, but he's very hard to find. He's not in the right spaces, not creating right. Yeah, like this is a really big difference. And I thought like Ramos as well, I thought it was interesting because he was also like sometimes trying to drift and come a little bit lower to touch the ball and pass the ball around and contribute in the game. So, if he can start doing that a bit more consistently, like he might be a really interesting option for Luis Enrique. And we know Luis Enrique ranks him. And I think tactically, like there's a few things there which are like really interesting. So yeah, like we'll see. I think like tactically, I mentioned it before, I'm very curious to see how this team is going to evolve. And I think, if we imagine a world where Doué drops into midfield, or we play a sort of like 4-2-3-1, Ramos has a space for him that could be really, really like, interesting and additive to the team. So we'll see, but I wouldn't rule him out just yet. I think he's going to have moments this season where we're going to be very, very happy to have him. So yeah. Other substitutes that came on the pitch, Warren Zaire-Emery, I thought did well. He had a good opportunity and he covered a lot of ground in midfield, taking over from Joao Neves. So yeah, quite positive overall. Mbaye, yeah, I mean, he didn't score, he didn't give an assist. There's nothing like really super front page worthy about his performance. But I thought he did well. He was interesting. Didn't really lose the ball. He was kind of easy and simple in terms of what he was doing, which is what I would expect from him. So I liked that. Kang-in Lee, didn't really see much of him, honestly. And yeah, I think that was it in terms of the changes. So yeah, I think in general, like I said, like we got the win. That's what we wanted. We continue coming closer to peak fitness. We're 6 points after 2 games and 2 clean sheets. Happy days, like next game is in 8 days. I think in Toulouse. So we've got more time to get that little bit better. I thought the game was better than against Nantes, so there is progression there. And so yeah, like happy days. That's all I'm asking right now. So anyway, this is what I had for you guys on this PSG Angers Fabian Ruiz festival. I guess if you read the media. Let me know what you thought of the game in the comment. Let me know if you saw anything that I didn't mention. Please drop a like on this video as well. And please do subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notification on future videos. And don't forget, definitely in the park with all of our trophies. Ici c'est Paris!